For part 3 of my log trailer build, I'm going to show you how I made this custom low profile toolbox to store chains and my winch and my battery. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Feel free to leave comments below. So I got the winch and the battery fit in here just to test it, make sure I have clearance. I got my risers and my crossbeam cut. That'll form the front of my toolbox. I've also got some markings where I'm going to cut out of that front. Spot to put some chains and store things inside that tube. Once I get the holes drilled, I'll be able to weld those two together and get that base plate mounted in. And then I'll need to put some support in the front to mount the roller. Okay, I got all the holes cut, lined up where I want it. So I'm going to go ahead and weld the two 4x4s together, and then I'll weld the top and the bottom side, and then I'll weld that plate in place on the top, and then I'll start welding it to the jacks and then to the trailer. So I got the plate in for the winch, got all that welded in. Now I'm going to put the risers and crossbeam across the top. That'll form the front of my toolbox. Add some support from the deck in case it gets slammed into. So I will start with that, and then I'll start running some angle iron to frame it in. Put a little notch, grab a notch out of that and put a little bevel on it just to make room for that weld, so when I butt that up against there, it'll fit a little more flush. Okay, I got all this tacked in. I cut these holes in here just to add a little bit of extra storage so I don't lose so much space with the 4x4. The solenoid for the winch will mount there. And then I added a chain catch just to help keep the ends of my chains from getting tangled up. I'll go ahead and finish welding this in. So I just use a couple of pieces of scrap 1/4-inch 4x4 that I cut out of here. I'm just going to weld my roller to that, and then I'll put the skin of the toolbox around it. Okay, so I got the roller and the supports welded on. I'm going to move back here, start framing out the toolbox. I need 7 inches of clearance for the battery. So I need 8.5. I got 1-inch angle iron here, so I just add an extra 1/2 inch. So that's about as low profile as I can go, still be able to get the battery in there. So I'm just going to start building up the frame, and then I'll put the skin on it. So here's the start of the frame. I just kind of set that up there and drew a straight line with the marker. that notched. I got that cut just a little bit back. So I'll put that notch up there. That'll fit flush with that edge. So I got both of those welded in, leveled up. I actually ran out of angle, so in the meantime, I'm going to move back up here. And I got some D-rings I want to put on. Rather than welding it to the floor, I'm going to put it on that little short riser there on each side. That'll give it a little bit more of a sturdy backing than just welding to that 1/8 inch plate on the floor. So I will come back once I got that done. Got the D-rings welded on down there, and I also decided to add a 1/2 inch plate above that to fill that gap. Put a D-ring up there. I got the front supports done. I'm working on the lid. I just measured from this far edge across, and then I just kind of eyeballed that angle right there. For this back one, I just set one up here and just kind of eyeballed this angle and just drew along that line, and then underneath I just notched it out so when it hinges that won't catch. Now for this one to go across, I just laid that up there. Just kind of followed that angle. And then this one, I wanted to match up with that on this edge here. So I'm going to cut that line and cut that line out. And I'll leave that edge lip to lip over that. And then I'll be able to weld across here and across here. And then I'm just going to repeat that on the other side, and then I'll put some supports for the lid, probably going across like that in the middle. Okay, I got the lid all fitted together. Just need to take it off and trim it up and just keep test fitting it until you get it to fit right. Got it tacked together just so I can test it out. And it's fitting pretty good. So I'll turn it over, get it welded up, and just grind it smooth. And then I'll put in the middle supports. For these, I just took a piece of the same angle iron, cut it in half, and then I beveled that out right there so I can weld that flush. And I'll just put 2 of these across there, and I'll just line them up with my other ones. I just took a total measurement divided by 3, and so these are spaced about 1 foot apart. If there's anything else you want to add to the inside, now's probably the time. I made this out of a piece of angle iron just to hold my snatch block and whatever else I want to hang up. I don't want to put nothing on that side because I'll have the winch and then the battery for the winch over there. So I want to keep that pretty clear. Next step I'll probably put the bolts through and make sure the winch lines up and actually bolts in before I close this in. And then I got that little strip right here on the floor. I'll put that floor piece in, and then I'll wrap the outside of the toolbox. That way if there's any gap issues in the back with the extra thickness, I can just overlap a little bit with the sheet metal on top. I got my bottom piece cut out and laid in. Get the angle, just trace that. Flip it over, cut it, and weld it in. I got the front cut out and put on. That's pretty easy. You just measure top to bottom, side to side. I got it welded on. I welded it on the outside and the inside. Then I got my other plates for the side and my plates for the front. Got them cut out. Just need to get them cleaned up. And I will weld them on. And then I'll cut the plate for the lid and get that welded on with the hinges. And then I'll figure out what I'm going to do for a latch. So everything's tacked in place. I got the hinges tacked on. This was all pretty simple. Just measure, cut, and weld it on. I'm just going to finish welding all the way around the outside, and then I'll grind that all flat, and then I'll do some little short welds in a few places on the inside. Then on the other side, I got those holes filled in. I'll finish welding those all the way around. I overlapped that. Where this 4x4 rolls down, I overlapped the back edge of the box just a little bit. And then on the back side of this angle iron here, I might put some silicone or find some way to seal that up a little bit. Once I get this all welded and ground down, the only thing left to do then will be to add a latch. So I went with this DZ style latch. I'm gonna have to build an angle up here. And for a striker pin, I'm just using a 1/4 inch bolt. And then this comes with rivets, but I'm using number 10 flathead screws with a nut on the back to hold this in. That way I can remove it for paint and stuff. So I already marked my center point out. I'm going to set that right below that weld line. It came with this gasket, so I'm just going to try to center this up. So on the back, it's got just a little bit of a gap between this little seal and the edge of the metal. So I'll need to make sure put that down just a little bit. Just got that centered the best I can. And I'm going to trace this. And once I get that hole cut out, I'll test fit it, and then I'll mark my screw holes, and then I'll work on the striker bracket. Okay, latch is in temporarily. And here's the striker I made. I just cut a piece of angle iron and cut down through the center with the grinder. And I just put a 1/4 inch bolt through there. And I'm just going to put that in and then measure, make sure the head of the bolt is clearing the edge of this angle iron. I'm going to measure from the edge of the bracket to the edge of the angle iron. 1.5 inches should do. So I'm 1.5 inches from this edge to this edge. So I'm going to go from this edge, I'm going to come in 3 inches. Got a center point marked in here. I'm just going to carry that center point around it, and then measure my 3 inches in. Right there, and that'll be where the edge of that bracket goes. So just the bracket alone was a little bit too short, so I just welded a 1/4 inch space around there. I got that tightened up, and I got my latch tightened up. Got the key. Lock it. So that wasn't too bad. If you could find a striker in the bracket online, I'd probably do that, but I didn't want to wait, so I just made that one. But I will take the latch off and I will finish welding. But for now, that pretty much completes the toolbox build. Rather than just the finished welding, you get the idea. So feel free to leave a comment, like the video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. I got more videos coming up in the series. Thank you for watching.